Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another. Well, this isn't really a Mandates with Guitar Greats because, as y'all know, 2 years ago I picked up keyboard instruments and I have moved on to playing the jazz organ. And as part of my journey in playing jazz organ, I looked out into the world and thought, who could I possibly go to for lessons on the organ? And there was only one name that seemed like a serious contender for that because he is an organ player, an organist that I have been listening to for many years. He's played with many of my favorite guitar players, and it's a pleasure to be one of his students. I consider him a mentor and friend now, and it's a pleasure to have him here on the channel. He's got some cool stuff to talk to us about today, and hopefully you can learn a little bit more about music and organ-related stuff with the one, the only, the incredible Mr. Tony Monaco. Hello, Tony. How's it going?
Hey man, how are you, Levi?
Yeah, I felt that was a very cheesy intro, but
It was
such is
great.
life.
It was professional.
Well, you've got. I don't know. Well, you probably haven't seen, but this is going to strike most of my YouTube viewers as a strange video because it's not what they're used to seeing. Because I started uploading it literally in the last 4 or 5 days. I've been uploading transcription videos of crazy guitar things, and they've gone super super viral. Like I've got like 400,000 views in 5 days,
Well,
which is
congratulations.
fantastic. But now
Fantastic.
people are going to see this and be like, this isn't what we want to see on your channel, Levi, but you do want to see this because I'm telling you, you can learn so much more from an incredible, experienced educator like Tony. So, yeah, Tony, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and then I'll ask some questions about your history and all that stuff.
Okay, cool. I really appreciate the opportunity to interview with you because, my mission is to try to spread the love of the Hammond B3 organ, which is the instrument that I got turned on to when I was a young player. And, with you being into the guitar and the guitar world, I've toured and played with so many great jazz guitar players because the organ, the guitar, and the drums are one unit primarily. And so I toured 3 years with Pat Martino, the great jazz guitarist. Um, and I've also played with, you name it, probably played with them if they're a jazz guitar player.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, I just came from Pat Martino's celebration. He passed away last year, and I played with so many guitar players that I can't even begin to name. There was so
Yeah.
many. Um, but my main mission is to try to educate, because unlike guitar and drums, which are very big fields,
Yeah.
the organ is a small niche,
Mm,
especially the Hammond organ in jazz.
yeah.
And my job, I feel, is to educate youngsters like yourself into learning how to play this instrument. But it was through the pandemic that I found that I had another gift, and that's to try to raise money to help charities.
Sure.
And so I'd like to talk a little bit, as soon as we get through some of this, about Christmas Eve Day and the charity that I'm going to do to try to raise money for the St. Jude Hospital, which I think is a noble cause because it helps their families
Yeah.
cope during a really rough time. So, anyhow, welcome to my world. I live in Columbus, Ohio. I was born here. I always wanted to leave, and then I reached a point in my career in life where I decided I don't want to leave. So I'm still here and happy as can be. So
Yeah, it's funny how that happens, isn't it?
crazy, isn't it?
Though I say that, of course, I moved from England to Scotland about 8 years ago, and I never looked back. So who knows? Maybe I'll end up back in England at some point.
I love Scotland, man. You guys are the best.
Yeah, it's a wonderful country.
Yes,
Yeah, so you mentioned the St Jude thing. There, for anyone watching, there is a link to that in the description. We're going to talk more about that shortly. Please do go and check it out. It's a wonderful cause, and you've raised a lot of money. You raised a lot of money, a hell of a lot of money last year, and hopefully we're looking forward to doing the same this year because, yeah, like I say, a wonderful, wonderful cause. So you mentioned the Hammond. Obviously, that's your instrument.
hmm
Though it was a learning experience for me for you to point out that you started on the accordion, right?
That's right. This is funny. You're going to think this is really funny, but life is life. There was a guy, he came knocking on our door. I was 8 years old. He had accordion in his hand. Like today, you'd shoot him.
Yeah.
And he had this accordion, and of course, my parents invited him in. And he put the accordion on I sat down, and he gave me the accordion and showed me to play this button and this button. And what his job was is to sell lessons.
Right.
for a company that was offering accordion lessons. And so I signed up, of course, to take accordion lessons, and that's how I got my start. Like I remember uh, right at the very beginning, you know, there was something different about the way I approached the music than the other students because they were all kind of glued to the music, but I could hear what to play.
Yeah.
So teacher would show me the music and he'd play it and I'd memorize it from what I heard. Go back next week and nail it. And that's kind of how I started to gain some self-esteem as I would take, they would sign us up for these contests, and I'd always win first place, because I never needed the music. I'd just give the music the judge and I played it like I felt it.
Mhm.
And music is a feel thing as much as it is, learning the theory behind it. So
Sure. When did you move over to playing the Hammond organ then, and why was that?
my dad played in a little wedding band and they had a quartet, bass, saxophone, accordion, and drums. My father was a drummer. And so before this event of the accordion lesson salesman, I used to go hang out with my dad at the gigs. And what had happened was when I was around 12 years old, I was still playing the accordion. Um, the accordion player that played in my dad's little wedding band quartet decided that they could make more money. Sorry, bass players. They could make more money if they, eliminate the bass player and the accordion player bought a Farfisa organ.
Right.
So
Sure.
he could play left hand
Yeah.
bass, and play the organ sounds. So they could play a little bit more contemporary music. I remember they had the one that was called Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog, they
Yeah.
called it, which was a song called Joy to the World.
Yeah.
And da 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 da. What's that? The Joy to the World, right? That was another one that was a big hit. And so this accordion player went to the local mall and started buying some organ records so that, he could learn what to do. Well, he had stumbled across a 2 album set of Jimmy Smith's greatest hits. He didn't like the music, but I remember being at this little his house during their rehearsal as a trio. And man, I could tell you just from my ears at 12 years old, having the sound even of the Farfisa organ and its bass,
Yeah.
it was different than their trio from the past, their
Yeah.
quartet from the past. It was cool. And so at the end of the rehearsal, he handed me this 2 album set of Jimmy Smith's greatest hits. And he said to me exactly these words. He says, I'm not into this music. He says, but you should give it a try. Listen to it. So I took this 2 album set of Jimmy Smith's greatest hits of an African American man. The cover had these long fingers.
Yeah.
That's what I remembered. And so I had to take the uh, album and I had to take the little adapter I had on this little record player that had built-in speakers that
Sure.
I was using to play the Beatles 45s, like I Want to Hold Your Hand and stuff.
Sure.
And I remember having to change the speed to 33, and I put on the first track, it was the whole side of the album, 22 minutes. It was a song called The Sermon.
Yeah.
And I was baptized
Yeah.
at that moment during those 22 minutes uh, to I want to do that.
Mm.
I knew instantly what I wanted to do once I heard that. I wanted to do this. As you can see, I'm still doing it, and I'm still trying to learn.
Yeah.
And that was the moment that I decided that I needed to switch over from the accordion to the organ. It wasn't until I was about almost 16 years old that my father bought me this B3 right here that we're looking
Same
at.
one.
Yes, same one. I've been playing this thing since 1975, 76. Let me
Wow.
put it on. Here it is, right here. See? My
Stunning.
Hammond B3. It's the center of my teaching world. I've got 4 of them now. But there it is. There's the beautiful Hammond B3. And listening to Jimmy Smith's hits changed my life.
Well, it's a kind of similar story for me, although I don't have the playing experience. When I really sat down to listen to organ players, everything just sort of clicked into place for all the same reasons. When I started, obviously, on the keyboard instruments by focusing on piano, and that was what I wanted to do. I wanted to play the piano. But when I listen to pianists, they always play with bass players. They always play with bass players. And they have no need for a guitar player. Sure, some pianists play with guitar players, but they don't have a great need for a guitar player. But when I listen to organ players, they very rarely play with a bass player. They don't need a bass player. They've got that sorted. But at the same time, they don't, again, need a guitar player, but all those great organ groups tended to have great guitar players in them. So for me, a guitar player, being able to listen to those records and hear some great guitar playing was a way to keep me hooked. But then I'm hearing all this organ stuff and I'm like, wow. Because right prior to getting into the organ, I really started digging deep into Charlie Hunt, a fabulous guitar player who plays 7 and 8 string guitar and does his best to remove the need for a bass player, and he's wonderful at it. I think it's all the same reasons, right? I like the idea of having a group that's 2 or 3 people. We don't need more people than necessary.
To make a little more money too, which is not a bad
Bingo.
thing. You know.
So for people that are unfamiliar with the power of the bass on the organ, could you give us a little demonstration of what you can do at the organ as just an individual? And I want people to listen to this and get a feel for just how complete a sound this is. You don't need the guitar player either. You could quite comfortably play like this, have a drummer there, and you've got a fully formed musical thing. It's incredible.
And the interesting thing, though, to help for the guitar players that are watching this interview, the guitar and the organ, actually, there was a Jimmy Smith recording of Wes Montgomery's Road Song, and it ended up being recorded twice, once with the big band for a Wes Montgomery record with the big band arrangement, but then a trio arrangement with Jimmy Smith and Grady Tate, and it ended up getting titled OGD.
Right.
Organ, guitar, drums. And how do we get along, and why you see so many organ trios that have guitar? When I'm soloing and I'm playing left-hand bass, who's playing the chords?
Yeah.
And when the guitar player's soloing, I'm playing the chords.
Yeah.
So we actually go together like hand in glove.
Sure.
Because we each support each other when the other person is doing their thing.
Yeah.
So to speak. So I might as well just play the sermon, because that was how I was baptized. And who knows? Maybe some
other... Tony, baptize us.
I'll baptize you. So the sermon, this is what I heard. So, I put the needle on the thing and...
I can't really do the imitation of a crowd doing applause, but yeah, bravo.
But you can
Um,
see where when I'm taking a solo, there's room for the guitar player.
yeah,
That's why we work well together, you know.
yeah, no, absolutely. So a few questions just for the audience. If you could switch back to the overview of your Hammond.
Yeah.
We can see that you have what us organists, like I'm one now. We have two manuals, an upper
Yep.
manual, upper keyboard, and a lower keyboard. Um, and these are controlled by the sounds that you control those with, are those drawbars at the top. Could you just give people a demonstration of some of that drawbar action,
Yeah,
just so people
absolutely.
can see how kind of versatile the sounds that we can get on the organ are?
And remember that this was the first synthesizer that was built to
Yeah.
synthesize a pipe organ,
Mm.
to replace the organs in small churches that couldn't afford a pipe organ. So these things represent lengths of the pipes. And so as you start pulling these drawbars, they start to bring in sound. Like this is what they call the fundamental tone. And you can listen as I start pulling them out. Maybe in a church you might hear, right? Vibrato with tremulant. But what we start doing is we start mixing these sounds with a little bit of something they call percussion, and started to leave the church because it became a lead instrument, right?
Yeah.
And you started to hear different sounds. So these things are actually active. So while you're playing, you can morph because they're alive and they're active. So you can get different kind of sounds. Like if you want to get sounds that are reedy, there's a reed sound. A little bit like a clarinet, right?
Sure.
But if you pull these ones out, it starts to sound more like a flute.
Yeah.
So these drawbars end up become settings. Like when you've probably heard to stop the sound before, people say all stops out.
Yeah.
This is
Pulling out
all
all the
stops
stops.
out.
Yeah.
So sometimes they called them stops. Sometimes they were called drawbars.
Sure. And so what we heard there when you went into your jazz sound was the what people would call that Jimmy Smith sound, the
The
first three
Jimmy
drawbars
Smith
out.
sound with percussion.
Yep.
And I'm controlling a Leslie speaker here. That's the speaker that spins around and around.
Yeah.
So it starts to throw the sound out. And you can hear that. And when you're hearing it live, man, it's incredible because it's throwing it around
Yeah.
360 degrees. And actually, I became friends with Don Leslie before he passed, and I'm very good friends with his son, Jim. The whole idea was the Doppler effect, like when a siren goes by, the pitch changes a little bit. Well, when that horn starts to spin, it starts to throw the sound all around the room, and with the variances in pitch, it gives you this sensation of a pipe organ.
Yeah. Yeah.
Amazing, right?
For people that are looking, like you can see, I have a big Leslie speaker behind me.
Ah,
And Tony's totally right. Like hearing this in the flesh is something. It's something different. It's a three-dimensional sound.
that's right.
That's just absolutely incredible. So for anyone that hasn't had the opportunity to either see a Leslie in the flesh, listen to a Leslie in the flesh, or be really lucky and get to run a guitar through a Leslie, it's
Yeah.
such a magical sound that I really really enjoy. So that was your Jimmy Smith type sound. Um, let's address the elephant in the room. The
Okay.
thing that I think is probably the most interest, certainly for me, when I watch a great organ player. I just went to see the Tedeschi Trucks band.
Oh, yeah.
They were fabulous,
Oh,
absolutely
yeah.
fabulous.
Of course they are.
But I'm watching the organ being played, and I'm like, I don't see any pedals there. Now, of course, in that setting, there's no reason to be using bass pedals. Could you give the guys a
I
rundown
have
of
them.
the pedals that you have?
Yeah, and I have a pedal cam, so there you go.
Yeah.
You see the pedals, and notice I don't have shoes because I like to be able to feel them. So when I'm playing, I'm actually using my pedals too. Sometimes I'm tapping, sometimes I'm just playing them alone. So sometimes they're working together. So pedals are a big part of the lowest tones because the way they made the real Hammond organ is that the lower manual doesn't actually play the deepest tones,
Sure.
but the pedals do. So
Yeah.
we combine them together in my style of playing, where the left hand and the foot are playing the bass part together.
Yeah.
However, there's those things where, for example, where you might be holding a chord with the left hand, right? Where then now the pedals are primary bass, right?
Yeah.
But you can't get the agility with one foot that you can with 5 fingers. So when I'm playing that, you can't do that with the pedals alone. You have to. You need the agility of the 5. So I kind of play them both depending on what the need for the fill is at the moment.
Well, well, I'll just get two more little playing examples out of you based on the things that you've just shown us, right? So one is you are a master of using that left hand like a bass player, and it's the thing that I say really sets the organ apart from the piano. Could you show us some of your funky left hand stuff that you were doing there?
Oh yeah.
So people can really see how that left hand is doing the job of a bass player.
So it's just like a real bass player, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I need to pedal sometimes. It's because I made some sound changes. That kind of stuff.
Beautiful. And one thing that's worth pointing out there is, again, for anyone that out there that plays the piano and is looking to dabble in the organ, the first thing that you have to really get your head around is that it's not a dynamic instrument in the way that the piano is. When you play a note on the organ, the volume is fixed. We have an expression pedal which we control the volume with to a degree, but the magic of that is that you can. There was a lot of you were flicking keys there on
Yeah.
that in that left
I'm
hand.
using the expression pedal for dynamics, see?
Yeah.
So that changes the game too.
Yeah, I mean that's a terrifying world in itself. But with that left-hand stuff, you're flicking keys to get percussive sounds because you can get a percussive sound out of the organ when you're flicking things, which is
That's right.
yeah, it's a monster instrument. So yeah, I think everybody that's unfamiliar with the sound of the organ, you just go and check out some Jimmy Smith records. For me, go and check out some Jack McDuff records because they're just that early era of that jazz organ taking off. It's a wonderful, wonderful sound. Of course, we'll talk more about your records at the end. The other playing thing I just wanted people to see, just to see, because it terrifies me, just to see your foot when you're playing a real up-tempo blues, so we can see just how frantic that foot can be, and why when we hear a great organ player and we see them using their feet, much respect
really
needs to
going
go
on.
to them for that.
Right. So. You could see over the years where I've worn this thing out
Yeah.
because you can actually slide like if you're a baseball player sliding on home base.
Yeah.
So I actually use a little bit of sliding to get my speed because if I want to go from this seat down here, I gotta kind of slide into it. You
Yeah.
know, that kind of stuff.
I think you mentioned that you play in socks, and when I'm watching organ in the house with my partner, I'll often point out the organ sock. When organ players using a sock, it's extremely common to see organ players playing with a sock, which is why I'm all the more terrified when I see guys like Corey Henry playing in shoes. He's playing. I'm like, but you can't feel the pedal in shoes. What are you doing?
They
Uh,
do make pedal shoes. It's
right.
just, I like to feel them
Yeah.
because then I can feel. I don't know. I guess it's a personal thing.
Absolutely. So let's talk a little bit about St Jude's. Let's talk about what this Christmas event is and how people can get involved and what's happening.
Well, this is important to me, and I want to share the story for all of us because I think these kind of stories need to be told because they're important. So you're looking at my screenshot of the ad for it.
Yeah.
This happens on Christmas Eve Eastern time. I start at noon, which would be about 6 p.m. your time. And I go for 12 hours or more. Last year it ended up going for 14 hours. And all of the money that goes to the donation link goes straight to the St. Jude Hospital. And this helps families who have children with cancer. And the money that we're giving helps the families have a place to stay while their child is in the hospital at one of the St. Jude facilities. So it's a major deal because the family doesn't need the stress of trying to worry about paying for hotel bills and stuff while their child is being treated for cancer.
Sure.
And what happened to me is 3 years ago, one of my students challenged me. He said, you should do a fundraiser online. This was when the pandemic was going on. And I remember setting a goal of $8,000 and I broadcast for 12 hours. And about an hour before I was, finished, I was only at 7,000. I thought, geez, I'm never going to make it. And about 10 minutes before the end, I rolled the ticker, like if you go to the fundraiser itself, I rolled the ticker. And this one, of course, is just starting. So, I've only seeded it and someone has already donated. But you'll watch this thing climb on Christmas Eve day. Right when I rolled the ticker, right before I was done, we had superseded our original goal, which was $8,000. And something hit me, man. God hit me, I guess, because I knew that I had done something good
Yeah.
outside of myself. So since then, I do them every Christmas Eve because for me, it's important to try to raise money for families in distress and
Sure.
need. So what happens is basically I have a lot of my friends and students who are musicians come on and entertain. I have a simulcast going on with a separate Zoom meeting, and all my friends come. And what ends up happening is we start raising money all day, and at the end of the day last year, we raised $12,000. So it is growing. Now, I don't want to get my hopes up too high on a number because my work is for God, not for the number. But a goal is good to have. And, this year is tough. Our world is in a crazy economy. But I'm still hoping to raise as much money as I can on Christmas Eve day to help these families. And that's what
Sure.
this is about.
Well, expect me to be there. I'll be there.
I'm counting on it,
Yeah,
man.
I'll get involved. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's
And
going to
any
be
of you that are watching, there's going to be a link in this
in the video description.
broadcast on the YouTube channel where you can go and give money to St. Jude.
Yeah.
And the money goes straight to them. It doesn't come to me. It goes straight to the cause. And this is a very legitimate cause. People who know St. Jude
Yeah.
Hospital and its fundraising is
Yeah.
staple, I guess, in
Yeah,
America.
I'll jump in and say something on that. So, for anyone that is watching this, and you're thinking about charity, there will be lots of people that are watching this right now and going, "Well, I don't have time in my life for charity right now," and that's totally understandable because the world is a hard place to live in right now. There's cost of living crisis is happening all over the world. People's bills are going up, and I think it's hitting a significant portion of the population much harder than it has been for many years. I mean, I mentioned to Tony in my last lesson, I got a fine the other day for driving my car without an MOT, and it was £100 fine. Now I can afford to pay £100 fine, but I was thinking to myself, for someone that gets pulled over and has £100 fine, that fine is significantly more in terms of the money that they have available than it would have been a couple of years ago. So don't listen to this stream and think that we're trying to make you feel bad and that you should contribute if you're struggling. If you're struggling, this isn't a plea to you. The plea to people that are struggling is get involved, share the stream, enjoy the stream, share the passion of music. But at the same time, there are people out there that aren't struggling quite as much. Yeah. So I'm not struggling quite as much as I used to be. And because of that, I'm in a position where I can donate to charity. If you are in a position where you're able to donate and you're not going to leave yourself short, do it. Donate to St. Jude's. If St. Jude's isn't your cause, donate to your local community. Just go out there and help people. Make the world a better place. We can collectively make the world a better place than the horrible one that we constantly seem to find ourselves in. And when there's people out there like Tony that are doing their best to kind of encourage people to do that, I think that should be applauded. And I think it's a wonderful thing that we should get involved in. So do it.
I feel great about myself because it's a day that I can give myself in the way that I sometimes get emotional, in a way that I'm best suited to do. I
Sure.
play and entertain.
Yeah.
So I can gather people to do broadcasting with me for 12, 14 hours so that people who can give do give. So you're exactly right. If you're not in a position, try to grab this ad and spread it to your community so that maybe someone else has a chance
Yeah.
to give, because I have found in my life one spiritual law that we can't escape. It's in giving that we receive.
Yeah. So get involved, people. Right, let's finish up by talking about a little bit about what it is that you're offering outside of the St. Jude thing. So you're still an active teacher online. People can check out your stuff. It's funny. I've got a meeting with somebody from TrueFire after this interview.
Oh,
There's some
I did a
stuff with you
video for
on
TrueFire.
TrueFire. Yeah,
Yeah, with Fareed and
yeah,
Steve Smith, a famous
yeah,
drummer from Journey and Vital Information. Yeah.
yeah. So people can check you out there. But if people want to come to you for lessons, you do both private lessons,
Yep.
you do group lessons.
Yep.
You also have an online school, right?
Yep. Yep.
Tell
I
us a little bit
sure
about
do.
that.
Okay. Thank you for giving me that opportunity. First, that's always a wonderful thing when a person gives me the opportunity.
Well, I'm just passing on, the things that I've taken advantage of.
You're a beautiful man. I appreciate it. I'm going to take you to my website because while I talk, I want to show you a few things. And the
Sure.
link for my website, I'm sure you'll put it
Oh
down at
yeah,
the
absolutely.
bottom as well. I appreciate that. So let me click the right button. I can usually dabble the yo-yo and talk at the same time. There it is. I know you're looking at the St. Jude ad. Of course, I'm going to give the people that come to my website, but you're at b3monaco.com.
Yeah.
And I just want you to know, if you're interested in taking lessons with me, I offer a $30 trial lesson fee that you can come and take a whole hour with me for just $30. And of course, I record everything and send it to you. And listen, man, if that's all you do in 1 hour, I can change your life. I guarantee you I will.
I love that confidence.
But I have a lessons page, and you can go there and book the lesson, and I'll get a hold of you immediately. And, we do it. But, some of you are into impersonal learning, and I have a school. So hopefully we'll put this link to it. And there's a 3-day free trial. And in this school, there's just hundreds of hours of classes from the groups that I hold.
Yep.
And also, there are my past instructional videos, like instructional videos on blues,
Yeah, yeah.
on split keys, on broadcasting, because I did a lot of broadcasting. My master class on blues, there's 2 DVD set. They're all right here. And it's only $14.99 or $14.95 a month once you get in. So there's like over 300 hours of classes, and it's really cool. So if you're into impersonal learning, I can offer that too. And of course, I do all my broadcasting and my shows on my network. So try to find me, become a friend, sign up to my YouTube channel. I
Do it.
always have stuff. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite things is a little thing that I created called Tony Monaco
Yeah.
Students and Friends.
It's a great
A
group.
free Facebook place, okay? And you can maybe give them this link too.
Yeah.
And here I have in the files section all of my drills that you can learn from, including other files that are uploaded. But this is a community right now that's continuing to grow. Now, when you say 1,700, I know when you're talking about 400,000 hits, but
Yeah.
when you talk about the organ, that's huge.
Oh
That's
yeah,
a big
absolutely.
community,
Yeah.
you know. And all of my friends are either past students, present students, students of the instrument, or great performers of the
Yeah.
instrument. You know, so here, when you post, it's a private group, it's free, and you can be, you know, here's somebody performing something and putting it up and getting feedback from other members. So it's a very alive and vital. This week I feature one of my best friends who's a phenomenal organ player, Brian Charette. It's Brian Charette's week. So I actually feature once a month a special organ player to come and share some things with us, and then offers a clinic on Sunday. So as you can see, man, I'm like a household store. I'm like Walmart. You know?
It's funny when you think about it because you're totally right. You're like Walmart, but you're Walmart for the most niche instrument in the world. You're giving out everything to a room full of four people. But that's
Man, you know, I got a lot of energy, Levi, and I like to help people. I found that helping, you know, I used to worry about trying to collect, and now I'm trying to give
yeah.
because the more I give, it keeps coming, you know. So
Oh,
it's a
100%.
faith
Yeah.
thing. You kind of got to trust,
Yeah.
but you also got to have faith, you know.
I've said it a million times. Like the reason I do what I do is because I'm very lucky in my career in that I grew up beyond dirt poor, and to be where I am now is it's a combination of two things. There's a lot of hard work that's gone in, but also there's a lot of being given opportunities by people who didn't need to give me opportunities.
Yeah,
Good people, good friends, people like Martin Goulding or Tom Quayle or Andy James, people that I've met over my life who have gone to bat for me when they didn't have to.
right.
And I wouldn't be where I was if it wasn't for people helping me. And now I'm in a position where I can do my best to try and help people too, and
Of
it's
course.
uh, it's a great thing to do. So try and help people out as much as you possibly can. So if people want to go and listen to you,
Yeah.
of course you have tons of records out, tons of records out.
They sure
Um,
do.
what would you recommend?
Well, you know, I'd say if you're a Spotify user, just type in my name. Or go to YouTube and type in my name because Tony Monaco is an organ player and he's been playing his whole life and he loves music. I've put out probably as a soul as my own projects, probably I think somewhere around 12 or 13 international projects, but I've also been on many like Pat Martino records and Harvey Mason and you name it, you know.
Yeah. I'll make mention of one and allow you to potentially tell a story,
Okay.
uh, because I put a video up on Joey DiFrancesco
Okay.
a few weeks ago. You have, I think you're on two. Is you on two records with Joey? You did
I
two?
just did one. You're talking
Is it just
about
one?
New Generation, right?
Yeah, New Generation.
Yeah, let's pull that up on YouTube. Let's play a fun track real quick. Joey became a good friend of mine, and as a matter of fact, speaking of how life is, I had played music my whole life, but I've been blessed to have children and now many grandchildren. So when you play organ, if it's not your mainstream, you've got to have a day gig, okay? And I had a day gig for many years, and I went through a period of my life where I was just about giving up on music. I didn't understand why God had given me the talent, but He did. So I found out that my father was terminally ill, and I had to help him through that transition and be there for our family to take care of things. And I was running a big construction business because I had three young daughters at the time. And I gave up music. I started doing some spiritual advisement, trying to figure out what God wanted me to do. 6 months after my father had passed, I get a phone call from a promoter. And he says, guess what? We're bringing this guy named Joey DiFrancesco in to open up a new jazz club. I just wanted you to know. And I didn't really know Joey that well because I had stopped buying Jimmy Smith records, and you were talking about 20, 23 years ago maybe.
Yeah.
And quickly I went to the store to find some of his CDs, and I couldn't believe how great this guy was.
Oh yeah.
And so I offered the promoter to pick Joey up and take him out to dinner because being a paisan and all that stuff, I figured it'd be kind of cool, to go manja. And so here's how God works. I had totally kind of like given up playing music at the time. I hadn't played the organ in maybe 2 years or so. And it was just so happened that I had to go pick him up where he was giving a clinic. And the people in the audience said, meet Magic, by the way, he's my best buddy. When I was giving the clinic, somebody said to Joey, Tony Monaco's here. He said, oh, that's that guy that's going to take me out to dinner. And they said, no, you don't understand. You should hear him play the organ. So Joey said, you play the organ? How come you didn't tell me? I said, well, So he invited me up. Next thing I know, I'm being flown to Phoenix, Arizona to be produced for my first international release called Burning Grooves. So just when I had given up, that's when it all came. So I just need to say that because that's kind of important sometimes. I think my ego can get in the way of what I think I deserve and what I need.
Sure.
And the nature of the world tells us what we really deserve and need.
Sure.
So I'll take you to the screen. And this was a record that we did. So after I put out about 3 or 4 releases, Joey had given me a call and he says, hey, man, I'm coming through Columbus. It was a Christmas time thing. He says, let me know if there's anything happening. And I said, well, Joey, you remember that record that Richard Groove Holmes and Jimmy McGriff did together called Giants of the Organ? He said, oh, yeah, I remember that. I said, why don't we do something like that together where since your trio's coming, we could go in the studio and record a record. And what had happened is I just started to endorse Hammond Suzuki Company, thanks to Joey's recommendation. And they put out a new instrument called the new B3. It was a digital Hammond B3. And Joey had one in his trailer. And I drove to Chicago to pick up another one. We went in the studio with 2 digital B3s. And we laid out this record called Paisanos on the new B3. The new generation. But there's a lot of swing and jazz and stuff, but I just want to play something that's fun, okay? You're going to love this. I love it.
Okay, well, we might as well wind things up here then. I will have you play us out, but thank you so much for giving us your time today, Tony. And again, links in the description. Please do go and get involved, guys, in Tony's Christmas Eve stream. Do something good. Make the community a better place because we can do that. Collectively, we can do that.
We can do it.
Yeah.
And if you got some talent, get a hold of me because I'm looking for people to help me during the show. I know you're going to be there, Levi.
I'll absolutely be there.
God bless you, man.
So I guess I'll make a request.
Yes.
Seeing as, I said I went out looking for an organ teacher and who I could possibly study with, and you were the obvious guy because you had an affiliation with Pat Martino. Pat, one of my all-time favorite guitar players. And I'm desperately waiting to find the time to get a really good video on Pat up on my YouTube channel because more people need to listen to Pat. But you played with Pat for a long time.
Yeah.
And one of Pat's, well, I don't know if it was one of Pat's favourite tunes. Probably not one of Pat's favourite tunes, but one of the tunes that Pat was best known for playing was Sunny.
Oh. Why did I know that was going to come? That's cool.
I know it's a cliche, right? It's not even the one that I'd want to hear of Pat's tunes. But yeah. How do you feel playing us out with a bit of Sunny?
I'd love to, and let me get the full screen for you so that you could see me play it. Sunny.